Welcome, everyone. My name is Maria Teresa Barvist. I'm one of the co-founders of SFAA, the alumni organization, and we're just so excited today to be actually Zooming live from the SFAI archive in the Crown Point Press Building in San Francisco with Evri Kwong and Jeff Gunderson. And this is actually the first time since Jeff and Becky did their tour of the archive that we are like having this live talk in a sense where everyone is just watching you two. And so this is really, really cool. Thank you so much for doing this, and take it away, Jeff. Take it away.
Yeah, this is our pleasure. In fact, we were conjuring up the time that Becky and I did the tour of here because we thought, wait a minute, we've done this before. We can figure this out. And so here we are, and maybe we should do more of these because it looks like a good venue for it. I have the pleasure of being here today with Evri Kwong, who I have known for, wow, you were a toddler probably. 86 or 7?
87,
yeah.
88,
yeah. And when you first arrived at the Art Institute, and you were a BFA student, and then you went on to get your MFA,
yes.
And I assume it was in painting, but
yeah,
painting, you could be painting and drawing. And it's just, I'm gonna try to channel every Zen, calm energy and not be too nerve-wracking with things. But I first wanted to just ask you how you figured out to go to the Art Institute and just the beginnings of your attachment to the school.
Yeah, so let me see, from the beginning, my parents were kind of like beatnik hippies, and they had a lot of artist friends, and my father worked at Cost Plus, and my father actually started a small meditation group at Alamonte Hall in Mill Valley, and this is probably late 60s, early 60s, somewhere around there. And so they're around a lot of artist friends. And so I would go over to the Art Institute, but I didn't know what it was then, and see these weird sculptures and things. And so that kind of put me on a track to think about maybe art is something that I could do. But before I actually came to the San Francisco Art Institute, I actually studied modern dance with Anna Halprin. And she actually was the one who kind of said that, you can do this and you can use the art as a tool to navigate the world you live in, and learning about yourself and the world around you. And so that studying with her was a really important moment for me, and it helped me on the track to actually go to the Art Institute. She actually wrote a letter for me to go to the Art Institute, along with, there was other influences. I had William T. Wiley was a major influence, and this is probably in high school time, that I was really looking at his work. He was a major influence, and he wrote a letter as well. And so that set me on the track to come to the Art Institute. First, I thought I could maybe major in dance and maybe start a company. I could train for a while and then start my own company. And I realized that, I'm not a rich guy. I'm not a great fundraiser. So I went back to what I did as a kid, and I was always drawing early on as a kid. So that was a major thing.
Okay, I'm going to divert from the questions that I had and follow up with some of those things. Where did you go to high school? Did you go to high school in Marin?
No, I went to high school. Actually, we moved up north, and I ended up going to Sonoma Valley High. That was a very different place than Marin, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you took classes with Anna Halpern, was it at that studio in Kent Woodlands?
Yes.
Wow.
It was in Kentfield. That was the most amazing experience in my life.
Yeah.
And it was an intense year-round thing. So every day we would go there for like, I don't know, 10 hours, 8 hours. I mean, it was a long, grueling day.
And she had an attachment to the school. She taught there in the late 60s, and she knew all those same artists and knew a bunch of Marin artists who were from the school too. So, I don't think it was necessarily a smaller world there, but you sure were plugged into some interesting people.
Yeah, it was a wonderful time.
I wish we had your transcript in those letters, because those are really good archival documents. let's see. When you came to the school, so you wrote to Annie Reiniger, and
Yeah,
that's who you
right.
apply. That's who you applied to,
So I think,
probably.
yeah, she told, I guess I had to, she told me to come in for an interview. So I brought my portfolio in and with my letters of recommendation, and she interviewed me. And then she said, okay, well, you'll get a letter in the mail in a couple weeks, and then we'll go from there. At least that's kind of what I remember. And then I told her, I said, well, is there any way you could just let me know now? I need to know now. And she just wouldn't, she wasn't budging. And then I said, please just let me know. And then she finally leans over, I think, and she says, you're in, but you just can't say it to anybody. And I was like the happiest. It changed my life. It really changed my life.
She probably had to check with Jeremy to make sure.
Oh,
no, I don't know. Who knows?
But it really did change my life. It was the first time that I could go to a school that I felt like I belonged. And that meant the world to me. And every day was a learning day and a wonderful experience, even though the times some of the classes were really hard and tough. I mean, they put you through the ringer. You were challenged at every corner that you could go to, whether it was sculpture, painting, whatever it was, you're challenged. So it actually accelerated my growth of learning about painting and art faster than it would any other place. At least for me, that's how I felt.
How did you choose the first classes that you were in? Did they just assign you classes, or do you remember the first ones they took, or the ones that were impressionable with you?
They might have just assigned me class. I don't really remember exactly. We had probably taken there was something called visual ideology, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Raymond Blaney, he was one of the teachers.
Yeah.
And that was in the big lecture hall. And that was really, I liked that a lot. And then they had the other classes. I can't really recall the classes, but I remember taking printmaking class with Gordon Kluge, and that was a great experience, wonderful experience, making prints. And I remember there was one time where we had to take a test on how many artists that we knew, and I thought, okay, that no problem. I know enough artists. And I failed it miserably, and I felt humiliated. And after that day, I went to the library and tried to really look at as many different kinds of art as I could. So that was a big wake-up call.
Is that when you started to work in the library?
Oh, gee, maybe around the same time. I'm not sure, but I remember working at the library. Yeah, I do remember working at the library.
You're one more of our wonderful student workers.
That was fun.
That was really good.
And then
we learned a lot from you.
Yeah, then it gave me access to the books and the archives and all those things. And then meeting some of the other professors. I remember Jack Fulton would come in there. I remember John Roloff. I took a couple classes from him. All these professors would come in.
Yeah.
To check out books.
It was one of those places where everybody would appear from
Bill Bergson.
Bill, yeah.
Bill Bergson.
Did you take any photography classes?
I didn't, and I kind of regret that.
Who did you take painting classes from?
Let's see here. I took from, Irene Piwan.
Yeah.
And Carlos Villa, Julia Satowski, Susan Shatter. Maybe that was a seminar class. She was only there for a semester. Barbara Rogers. I regret, I didn't, Pagan Brook. Let's see, who else? Pat Klein. Klein. I think those were the ones that I can remember. But I talked to Bruce McGaw a lot because he would be in the rack room. I worked there for a time in the rack room, so we would talk there. Who else? Sam Jacalian. I'd say Sam Jacalian and maybe Carlos Villa were pretty big influence on me.
You did the whole range. You took almost everybody, it seems.
I tried it. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to take a class from Bruce McGaw. I didn't take a class from him.
But working in the rack room, you sure were influenced by all. You saw everybody.
Right? Yeah. Oh yeah. There were even later people. Ann Carter.
Yes.
Yeah. Time Ann Carter.
Yeah.
Irene Piwan. I was her TA for a time. She was tough.
Yes.
She was very tough.
She sure was.
She was. Yeah. But she did great work.
She sure did.
Yeah, I loved her work. And Sam Jacalian, yeah, he was a tough teacher, but he had a big heart in the end. You know, he'd always tell me, don't read. He told me, I was reading a book on Kandinsky, and he told me, put that book down. You don't need to be reading books. And I said, yes, I do. And he said, no, you need to be doing. You need to be painting. And so I remember one time he invites me to his place to watch the Super Bowl with a couple of my friends. And he had a whole shelf of books. Yeah. And I said, Sam, come on. But he was a really, you know, soft at heart, even though he yelled and screamed a lot. I mean, and I even remember the time after I had graduated, he was still telling me about my backgrounds. They didn't work or something like that. I said, Sam, you know what? I've already graduated. I'm out of here. I don't need that anymore. I'm okay. I'm okay. But he would always wave me in. If I didn't eat, he would always sit me down. Like if I'm walking through Chinatown, he's sitting in some place in Chinatown on the corner of, I forgot, that Yet Wah restaurant. And he would just say, come in. Yeah. And he would say, did you eat today? Wow. Yeah, yeah. So he was really, I tried to pay for a cup of coffee one time at the Pizza Cafe, and he actually grabbed the money out of the woman's hand, gave it back to me and said, as long as you're a student, you shouldn't pay. And that was that's the right attitude. Yeah, yeah, he was great. Already paying. Yeah.
Well, maybe we should share a few images, because the first one sort of is the next question that I was going to have for you is, I think the first one is going to be this. Fellow students at the school.
Yeah.
And, you know, there you are on the right, on the stairs of the Diego Rivera mural.
Yeah. I wonder who took that.
I wonder too.
So that's Chicago.
Maybe Larry Sultan or,
no, I'm not sure. Maybe a friend of mine? I don't know.
So that's Chicago up on the left?
Yeah, up on the left. Yeah. I'll just go down the stairwell. And then that's Marissa Hernandez.
Yeah.
And I never really got a chance to talk with her, but everybody else I did. Ann Appleby is right next to me, and she's a painter. I think she lives in, I want to say Montana, but I'm not sure. And then that's Joan Wolfe. And yeah, those are some really wonderful memories of being in school. And all those people that are there, their artwork is wonderful from what I remember.
I do too.
And they're still doing it after all these years.
Yeah. A few of those people have social media, you know, profiles. Yeah, it's fun to see what they're up to and what they're doing, where they are. Do you think this was a group show in the Diego maybe, or was it just a group, you guys were just hanging out?
Yeah. I don't know who it is.
Your work hung around the school though. I remember seeing it.
Oh yeah, like in the courtyard. Yes. Yeah, in the courtyard, in the spring shows, in the multicultural show they had.
Yeah,
probably. I mean, I had a few shows in the Diego Rivera. I remember.
Yeah,
that was always fun.
Is that how Rene DeRosa first saw your work, or was that later?
Oh, Rene DeRosa
through there. Yeah.
Are you talking about Rene DeRosa?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he saw my work later at Catherine Clark Gallery.
Okay.
Probably. Oh, geez, I don't even remember how far back that is.
Because I mean, when you mentioned DeRosa, he would wander through the school and look at work, and he would purchase work from students even at that point. So I was curious if maybe he had seen yours.
I didn't even know him. God, now I'm trying to remember what year. Is it early 2000s?
Maybe it was later than this, 10
or
years later.
1999. Yeah. But I remember him seeing the work at Catherine Clark, and that's when he bought a painting there, a small painting, Sweet Desires. I think it was like this big.
Yeah.
Probably like, I remember that.
What other students did you hang around with?
Oh boy, there was a lot of them. Let me see. I remember Paul Pfeiffer. Yeah. He was a painter. Now he's video artist, you know. And then Ruby Nuri was one. Yeah. Barry McGee, Jason Rhodes, Tobin Couture, and Rachel.
Yeah.
God, there's a lot of people. Rugen, Rugen, a short Filipino girl. Rugen, she was painting there. Lori Hansen was painting there. Joan Wolfe, Chicago Okada.
You were there when some of those people were doing graffiti art.
Yes.
And
I'm trying to,
yeah,
Rigo.
And Rigo was there, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I always liked his work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rigo 89 as when he arrived.
Oh, he arrived in 89.
I think it was 89.
Okay.
Maybe it's maybe
because I remember seeing one big show of his at the Diego, and I really liked his work.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
So I think your work, which we'll see here in a second, and that work, which people think of sometimes from that time, it shows you how pluralistic it all was. Like everybody was working in sort of different ways.
Yeah.
And
which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't have to be under one way of working, but you could work, you find your own path. And that's what was great about the Art Institute, is that you got to see different ways of working and doing things, and come up with your own. And that was the wonderful thing about the school.
Okay, what's the next image that we have? Okay, now tell us about this painting.
Yeah, so the early work that, as I did it as an undergrad, I would kind of refer those as Mr. and Mrs. Tools. And what I mean by that is that these people had suits, and they had like maybe a chainsaw for a head, or a hammer. The man would have a hammer for a head, always working and hammering away. The woman would have a broom for a head, or a teapot, always trying to sweep up after the man, or sweep up or serve the man. So they were kind of like these stereotypical roles of male and female roles, and how we become like these tools in our society, kind of separate from being a human. So I think that's what those were about. But at the time, I wasn't really sure what they were about. All I knew is that I needed to kind of paint them. And I remember the professors would ask, oh, and I also took classes from Sherry Laminate. I forgot.
Yeah.
And they would always ask me, well, what are you painting? What is this about? And I couldn't really put my finger on it until a little later. Yeah.
Would you get different responses from different faculty with the same work?
Yes, I would get different. Yeah, and that was a hard thing, because you're listening to the faculty, but at the same time you also have to listen to what works for you. And that was the challenge, I think, of really, ultimately, you're with your work and you have to kind of do what's right. But some of the faculty members, they know, they've been through it. They have the wisdom. So that was a hard time to kind of juggle and sift through all that.
I'll bet.
That was the hard part. There was another teacher, I forgot, Franklin Williams.
Franklin, yeah. You took everybody.
Yeah, so he was saying, yeah, you're a drawer. You're a drawer. Yeah, you're just gonna keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he made me laugh.
Oh, without a doubt.
Every class I took, I think I probably laughed so hard.
I also loved it when he would dress as a priest and give advice to students.
Oh, wow, I never saw that.
You never saw that.
But I think now, in retrospect, now that you mentioned it, it sounds familiar. Yeah. Yeah, Franklin Williams.
Let's see what we have next. Oh, so
these paintings date back to the one probably on the lower left is when I did in grad school. And then the others, I think were right out of grad school. And I kind of refer to these as kind of like starting of the blockhead people. The faces are kind of more blockheaded. That's what when I graduated, that's what came out of that. And at that time, I was really influenced a lot by the classical painters like Caravaggio's lighting. So there was this sense of like lighting, but also composition. So I was really trying to study the composition and lighting. That was a major thing when I was in grad school. And then, trying to kind of find my own way. And at the same time, just kind of get through the whole review process and all that stuff that I had to go through. And those paintings there are roughly like 6x7, maybe 5x6, and then maybe a 4x4. And I would say, yeah, the one on the top right, that one is still around. That's in circulation. I think that's down in Los Angeles, collector down in Los Angeles. But the rest of those things are destroyed, I think, unless they show up in somebody's house.
You mean somehow you lost track of them? You didn't. You
No,
didn't
I
destroy
didn't know.
them.
Well, they might be dumped in the garbage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep my eyes peeled. What's next?
Yeah, let's see. It's
Oh, there you
yeah,
are.
that's right. So yeah, this would be at 63 Bluxom Street, where I had my studio right out of grad school, and that would be 1991 is when I had that space. And the interesting thing about this studio is that I had no idea that it actually had a history. And I found out that it was in this book called California Performance Anthology.
Sure is.
And I was very impressed and very excited to know that I'm kind of in the lineage. And that was great.
Yeah, you sure are. There are lots of famous things that happened in there. The book was put together by a fellow librarian, Darlene Tong from San Francisco State, but she was ultimately, she'd run a place with Carl Loeffler, dealing with conceptual art.
Wow.
That is a very cool studio that you had.
Yeah, that was, yes.
And how long did you have that studio? When did you first move in there?
I think 1991.
And then you had it until when?
2017. Wow, 2017.
We should put it, we'll go down and we'll put a plaque down there for you.
The rent was cheap. I think there was one time where the landlord, so I was trying to get my paintings up the stairwell, and apparently I guess I made the stretcher bars too big. And so I left them down at the foot of the stairs, probably very upset. So I come back in 2 weeks, and the landlord, I think he cut a hole in the stairwell.
For you, so you could get them out?
Yes, so
wow.
And then I thought, yeah, so he was a really great landlord. And in fact, I think he lowered the rent one time. I'm not even sure why he did that. But I did ask him, so why are you renting to the artists? He said, because back in the day, nobody was around. These were the people that were wanting the space, and so that's why I did that. But yeah, he was a great landlord.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, what we got next? Oh yeah, tell us about this.
Oh yeah, so this was a painting I did, and it was not for the Poor magazine, but they ended up using this magazine. Poor magazine was founded by a woman by the name of Lisa Garcia, and her nickname is Tiny. And in the mid 1990s, you could see her trying to sell T-shirts outside of Macy's in downtown San Francisco. So on my way to the studio, I'd always see her out there. And so one time we started talking, and she said she wanted to start a magazine. And I thought, well, this just seems so crazy. Why do you want to start a magazine? And she says, well, what do you want to start the magazine for anyway? And, well, she said it's going to be titled Poor. And she said she wanted to have the magazine from the viewpoint of people who are poor, voicing out about this. And then I thought, okay, well, that makes sense. So I got some friends together, and we had a show to raise money for her first edition of Poor magazine. So the night of the opening, I remember some guy says to me, do you think any of this work is going to sell? And apparently my painting did, and then a number of other people's, and then we were able to make enough money for her to start the first one. And to this day, she has a school, I believe, over in Oakland, in deep Oakland. And so she's still doing the same work after all these years. That's an inspiration.
That is an inspiration. And you have a copy of this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I have a copy of this. I probably was on the cover of a couple of them. I was on the first one, and then this, I think, is the second. But yeah, she has a whole radio show, too. And I think I was on her KPFA radio show, but that was years ago, probably in the 90s sometime. But yeah, really a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Doing great stuff. Yes.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to explain this one.
Oh yeah, so this okay, so this picture is actually there's a boat there. Maybe it might be hard to see, but it's actually called the Everyman. So this boat actually, this is where my name comes from. I was named after a boat called the Everyman, and what it did, it sailed out from the Sausalito Bay to the Pacific Ocean in 1962 to protest nuclear bomb testing. And so this is where my name comes from, Jeff.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And so apparently, yeah, Jackson Browne wrote a song on Houseboat Everyman. So I got to go get the record.
Oh, you sure do.
But back then, when I was younger, I wanted my name to be like Steve or John. You know, I just wanted to be normal. But now, you know, I appreciate it. Now it's like,
Oh,
it makes so much more sense.
It sure does.
You know, it's really interesting too, because when I was a lot younger too, and when we lived in Mill Valley, I remember my parents' friends, when they'd come to the house, they would raise their fists and they would say, "Power to the people," or "Long live China," and or "Black is beautiful." And I just thought, you know, I was a little kid then, so I thought that's really strange. But then the interesting thing is those statements are relevant now.
They're as relevant as ever.
Yeah, yeah. So
wow, that's really interesting,
yeah.
Evri.
Yeah. And I actually met the guy who was actually in prison. He got arrested from the boat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is an early piece of the grids work, and this one's called Sweet Desires. And this one was at the Rene de Rosa. I think it was hanging in the house on the wall. Yeah. And then I forgot they changed hands, and then their whole a lot of the collection went into a facility. In Oakland.
Yes, yeah,
Oakland.
yeah. For those of you who don't know, the De Rosa was started by a person named Rene de Rosa, who was a wine person up in Sonoma, Napa Valley. And he would wander over to UC Davis in the 60s, and he fell in with all those artists from there, like William T. Wiley and Shaw and Tebow and all those places. And so he thought, well, I like it over here as much as I do studying wine stuff at the ag school at Davis. And so he started collecting a lot of art, and it's a stellar place up there that has this great collection of Northern California art.
It's probably the largest collection of Bay Area art in the country.
Yeah. I think. And it's just, you know, it's just this sort of gem of a place. Yeah. But they do have a lot of stuff in storage.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. There actually was a documentary made about his collection called Smitten.
Oh, really? And I should track that down.
It's Nancy Kelly, I think, is the filmmaker who made that. And but yeah, if you want to see what the collection is, that's a good one to see.
But he had a good eye, and he's just passionate, and he supported artists as much as possible.
Yeah.
Although he was cheap, he didn't pay a lot for paintings.
Oh yeah, that's right. In fact, I'm in that Smitten, and there's one part where he's actually trying to there's a big painting that he was trying to buy for like, I don't know, a few thousand. It's like, no way. But yeah, there's actually, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, this one, I think this one's titled Fly the Friendly Skies, and this is on a window shade, actually, an old-fashioned window shade. And yeah, this was about 9/11.
Nice.
And this one, I think, is at the deSaisset Museum now.
Isn't nice?
Yeah, Pollock-Krasner actually donated to the...
Oh, okay. Now, how did you get to know Pollock-Krasner? Pollock-Krasner is a gallery, commercial gallery person in Palo Alto that's been around forever. Wasn't around forever.
I think she started Smith Anderson Editions in the late 60s. In the late 60s, but yeah, she had a whole little printing press. So I met her through an art collector in Palo Alto, and he introduced me to her. And on the first time when I went to the press to work, I wanted to bring my wife just to meet this woman. And it turns out, they started talking, it turns out that my wife's, her father, their family knew her. What is the chances of that? But the family on the East Coast never mentioned Paula, so she became kind of like this mother figure.
Wow.
Yeah, she's an amazing woman. Yeah. An amazing press. The people that she showed there. Yeah. I think everybody from like Frank Stella to de Kooning, Clyde Oldenburg, Solowit.
And plenty of Bay Area people.
Enrique Chagoya. A ton of Bay Area, Frank Lobdell, Nathan Oliver. In fact, she was, I think, some of the first to do monotypes with
Is that right? With Nathan? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, the window shade.
The window shade, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that whole thing, actually, the window shade thing actually started by, there was a gallery dealer in San Francisco that was having a show, I think in Mexico, and he wanted me to be in this show. And I said, sure, I'll be in the show. What do I got to do? And he goes, the only thing you have to do is just draw on the window shade or make a piece on a window shade. I said, sure, I'll do it. And it was a great thing. And that must have been in the 90s sometime, mid 90s. And I love that idea of rolling something up. It's portable, transportable. It's easy to ship.
Yeah.
And so it's become something that I really have become fond of. Yeah. Okay, this one's a pretty, oh yeah, this one would be, I think this is 2020. I would say this is around 2020. Yeah, this was actually exhibited at the De Young Museum in the De Young Open. And this one's titled, I want to say something, America, home of the brave, the land of the free, or something like that. And this is actually about the kids at the border and the Japanese internment camps. And then there's a splosh of COVID in there. And Sissy Swig actually bought this one. But the important part about this particular piece, there's a story behind it. As I was working on this piece, a friend of mine said, I have something for you that's going to help you make this piece very powerful. And I said, what are you talking about? What, can you just tell me over the phone? And she goes, no, I have to deliver it to you. And I'm thinking, what could this be? So she drives over, she drives over, and then she's there, and I come out to the car. She pops the hood, the trunk of the car, and there's actually a suitcase about like this big, and it's of an internment camp. It's somebody's suitcase from an internment camp. So I, of course, open it up. It's got all these medicines, fans, all kinds of letters, all kinds of stuff in this thing. And it's unbelievable, unbelievable. So this thing, when that's exhibited, it'll be with the suitcase.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, so it's a sense of physical history with a visual history. Yeah, so that was pretty amazing. So yeah, I was living with a suitcase from an internment camp in my room for a while, for like a year, reading these letters, looking at the photographs, thinking about the family and thinking about the shame.
Yes.
And so yeah, that's a like a one of a kind situation.
And so when Sissy Sweet purchased this, did she get the suitcase too, or do you still have the suitcase? Wow, that's a brilliant.
Yeah, so this will go, so let's see here. I think in 2025, I think this will be at the deSaisset Museum. That's the plan, at least a big solo show.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And then that will be there with it. Yeah. And the thing about the more recent work like these, it's kind of touch on the past and where we are now.
Yeah.
And make people really reflect upon history.
It's like those people who visited when you were a kid and you realize that those things are still relevant, maybe tweaked in a little ways, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, so this piece actually is on a discarded American flag that I found discarded on the street up north. And it's interesting because I when I was working apparently on this piece on the ground, apparently this guy was walking by and he gave me this really mean look. And this is up north, so you can imagine. And I said, if you got a question, you can ask me. And the guy kept walking, and I said, you know what? I'm going to tell you what this is about. And this is about my family, and this is about history that served and hasn't gotten their day. So, but anyways, he kept walking. But anyways, so apparently I shouldn't have had it on the ground, but anyways, this is also about Vincent Chin. It's also about the internment camps. It's about a lot of things. If you look closely it's hard to see some of the stuff that's in there. But there's a bunch of pills within those stars that you can't see from far away. And it's also about a family sitting at a table. There's a lot of things that are going on in there. But yeah, that's a powerful piece.
Boy, it's nice to see work with so many layers to it that, sort of just unfolds like an onion in some respects. Like I think of people like Pagan's work and Irene's work and others whose work did sort of the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not quite as, nowhere near as resonates so much politically as your work, but still there's elements that are there.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are just ink drawings with India ink, Sharpie marker, and Micron pen. And these are probably like 9 inches by 12 inches. And these are, when I'm not working on the large ones, or when I'm working on the large ones, I try to kind of shift back and forth from drawing to painting to drawing to painting. And that way I don't have to think about these things too much. They're not so labor intensive. It's also gives me time to be able to complete something within a few days or a couple of days or a day. So if I can complete a drawing a day or drawing every 2 days or whatever it is, then I'll feel like I've accomplished something, because the bigger pieces are really labor intensive. And on the bigger pieces in the more recent time, like now, like a couple of years ago, I would consult like a professor who was working in a particular area. Maybe it could be about the Chinese railroad workers. And so to make sure that everything's legit within the piece that I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah, this one's an older piece. This one's called "Do You Know the Way to Santa Fe?" And we actually went to Santa Fe to do an art residency there for three months. Yeah, we did an art residency there at 3 months, and that was really fun. We had a wonderful time. I think it is at the Santa Fe Art Institute, and we got a chance to meet Eleanor Coppola there, because she was doing a huge installation there, and it was really nice talking to her. She was really down to earth, and but the residency was a wonderful opportunity. We would go to a place called the Lensic to see some poetry readings. And I think there's a lot of people who would come out to these things. It was amazing. And the people were really friendly. It was wonderful to just have this time where we could just work 24/7. And then the year after that, I had a show at Dwight Hackett Projects with a painter, Patrick McFarlane. And his wife is the wife who wrote the cookbook Greens.
Oh, so, yeah.
Oh, so Patrick... Yes. So this is a great story. Patrick was a student of my father's at the Zen Center. And when I was a kid, I would hang out in his studio. So to have a show with him was really kind of fun. Oh, it was like a full circle thing. Yeah, that was wonderful.
Well, that's a nice residency to be there with Eleanor Coppola, who is somewhat overlooked as a visual artist and a conceptual artist in a lot of ways. But
yeah, she's
she had an exhibition at the Art Institute. Carlos Villa had a show there at the same time as Eleanor Coppola in the early 70s, and she showed color photography. And I think it was the very first color photography that was ever shown at the school, and it happened to be by Ellie Coppola. So I was
wow, that's interesting.
She's a good art, wonderful artist.
Yeah,
and filmmaker.
Yeah. Yeah, I think these pieces were probably done in the mid-90s, and these are oils and wax on wood. And so what I would do is I'd melt the wax down, the unfiltered beeswax, and then I would kind of melt it down with some DeMark crystals to kind of infuse into the wax, so it makes it more hard. Yeah, and so these are a series I probably worked, I don't know how many years, but I did a bunch of these. And they're kind of come off the wall, they're thick. They're thick, clunky, but they're kind of beautifully painted. And they're kind of, their surface kind of ripples a little bit.
Good tactile paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, so this goes, this, I just wanted to kind of share this because then you get a sense of the scale of the pieces. And then to the left of me is that little, there's that suitcase, although it's not open.
Oh, yeah.
That's the suitcase. I should have took it when it was open. And then the piece on the, so you've seen the piece on the left side about the internment camps and the kids at the border. And then on the one on the right is more about the border wall. And I think it's more about Syria. That's probably around 2016, maybe. I'm not sure what year. And you'll notice things like ice cream cones and cupcakes or hot dogs. And those are part of the American culture that I kind of, I grew up with and I also like.
Yeah.
Like eating them. Yeah. And again, both of those are done on a window shade.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
And you've been teaching recently, right?
Yeah, I've been teaching, throughout the Bay Area for quite a while, but more recently at the California College of the Arts, which used to be known as California College of the Arts and Crafts.
Don't teach crafts. You don't wouldn't want that.
Yeah, I know.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I have a feeling there are probably going to be some questions for you, and I have about a billion more questions for you, but
sure. Okay, great.
Everyone, I just put it in the chat as well. If you don't want to unmute yourself, you can also just write it in the chat or let me know if you have a question and I can help Jeff out with moderating it. But go ahead, Jeff. I think you might have the first one.
Oh, I can't see the chat, but
Here we go. Adrian Card, I'm curious about the recurring symbolism of cupcakes and donuts. Great question.
As I said, those are part of the American culture. They're part of what I kind of grew up with. They're kind of like, I like those things to eat, but not too many of them. But also maybe, subconsciously, I inserted it into the work to maybe kind of make light of the other stuff that's going on within the painting. So I hope that answers it.
Jude Mooney has the next question, and Jude Mooney is actually going to curate a show with SFAA alumni for the Sonoma Museum in the spring. I think you talked to her already. Jude says, tell us about your upcoming exhibitions, and you're going to be in that show at Sonoma Museum. Do you have any other upcoming exhibitions?
Let me see here. Oh yeah, I think in 2025, there's supposed to be a solo show at the deSaisset Museum, and then hopefully it will travel to the East Coast, and we're trying to find a venue, hopefully the Queens Museum, and that would be in 2026. And then again at the Sonoma County Museum, I think that's in 2025 in January, I think. And then, oh yeah, that's right. Wait, I'm in a group show right now. Let me see here. That's at Track 16 down in Los Angeles, in downtown Los Angeles. And it actually made, I think, some newspaper or magazine, Hyperallergic or what's
Allergic.
Yeah, it said it's the 10, if there's 10 shows to see down in LA, that's one of them. So that's
one person used to be attached to that counter. Maybe she still is. Lori Steelnick. She's still,
I think she's actually in the show.
Is she?
Yeah.
Another SFAA alum?
She is?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I should reach out to her.
Yes. Yeah, dude. Tell her along.
Yeah, because the guy who bankrolled this gallery was the guy who wrote the Carol Burnett show.
Yeah, well, it's in Santa Monica there.
Yes,
so it's a good spot.
They put up the money. He actually flew me out to Birdmont Station when it wasn't even built.
Really?
And I told him that I can only spend 3 hours. So he takes me to the train station, and we're sitting on a train, one of those trains, and he goes, look, all the space is going to be galleries. And I was saying, what? Really? And he goes, yeah, and then you're going to have a show next year down in here. And then, of course, then Bergmont became Bergmont.
Yeah.
And then now it seems like the galleries are always shifting. Now in the downtown LA, he's in the Bendex building now. Yeah.
We have another question by Claire Tom. Hi, Avery. What influences the colors that you are choosing in the window shade drawings?
I'm not sure. Let's see. The colors, I think, are pretty intuitive. So they just come out however they are. And if they are like pink or light color, I'm going to say it's probably because to make light of what the other subjects matters are. I think that's what it is, but I'm not for sure.
And then
you know, the way I work in my studio practice, I try to just respond to shape, color, and form and mark making. And I try to really only just focus on those things and be in the moment. I think of like my studio practice is that it's kind of like it's everywhere I go. It's anything that I do. It's being inspired in conversation with a friend or seeing an art show. It's not just then when you're painting or making your work, but you're actually, the studio practice encompasses living life. Yeah, so I would think that, painting is my meditation, not passive, in action. Yeah, so it's not, art making is not like this, at least for me, it's not like this escape from reality or society. Yeah. That's bad. Yeah, because there was one time I was at a Trader Joe's getting groceries, and this guy said to me, he knew I was an artist, and he said, oh, well, at least you can escape or hide in your art. And so that's why I kind of responded to that the way that, at least for me, yeah.
There is a comment from Jeremy Morgan. Thank you, Avery. This has been illuminating, and what I appreciate is your sensitivity to the climate of the times and also to a sense of history of this amazing but complex country.
Thank you.
And we got Becky Alexander with a question. Can you talk about working both really, really small and really large?
Oh, yeah. The small, tiny pictures, I guess the small, tiny ones that you see are called, they're actually a work in progress called The Land of Oil and Honey. So all the things that I love about America and all the things I despise, but they actually grew out of when my daughter, I have a daughter who's 16 now, but when she was born, there was no time to make art. There was no space. There was no alone time. The only alone time I had was in the car. So I remember when I was starting these things, I would be just drawing them with a tiny little piece of paper with a micron pen in the car at like a stoplight. And when my wife found out I was doing this, I told her that she said, oh, that's probably not a good idea. And then I realized that, yeah, she's probably right. It's not, it's a little dangerous. But yeah, that's how it started. Yeah.
There's a set of these on the table, and they're absolutely beautiful. We should see if we can.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you could imagine a whole wall of like over 300 of these things in the shape of the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, referencing things that are going on in America.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Becky.
Great question, Becky. We have a comment from Claire Tom. Awesome. Thanks for sharing your work and your thoughts, Avery. I think she speaks for all of us. And then we have one more question from Corinne Abbott. Hi, Avery. Wonderful. If you had not gone to SFAI, do you think you would be painting the way you are?
Yeah, wow, that's a good question. I think SFAI has shaped me, has made me what I'm making today. So yeah, I guess, yeah, if I did not go to the Art Institute, I wouldn't be making the work that I'm making today. And also with the support of the community and all the people, yeah, I probably wouldn't be, I wonder what I would be making. But I guess I can't really go back that way because I'm here now. I'm making the work now, you know, and to have this support and even this archive sitting in this place right now here with Jeff and Becky is just a wonderful, wonderful moment. Yeah, for me.
Do you still dance any?
No, but I love to watch it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love to watch. I still love watching dance. I love movement. But yeah, I don't do that as much now. I think it's as you know, I'm more focused on just trying to get work done.
I'm so happy you are focused on that. So keep doing that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Oh,
it's really wonderful to see you.
It's a pleasure to see you, and I think about you all the time. And you know, it's such a joy to sit and talk to you and chat with you. And I hope everybody has had a good time listening to Evri's.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank Jude for you know, without her outreach, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So I wanted to thank her for that. Yeah.
You're welcome. So happy you're here. It's just like watching a TV show on Channel 9.
Well, there you are.
I love the format, and it's great to see all of your past work and hear your story, Evri. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also from me, Avery and Jeff, thank you so much. It was really special. It was like a different format we were trying, you know, this time where the artist and the moderator are both in the same space, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed listening to you, and I actually also took dance with Anna Halperin. I was at the Tamalpa Institute. I was doing the training with art therapy, movement-based art therapy. And so I'm really excited that I learned that you were you also have this connection with her. So I hope we can talk sometime about that. That was really beautiful. All right, everyone. I'm gonna stop the recording. So